out there know how he really was. He was a dancer. Now he trying to live a fantasy of stuff that he rap about.
And records talking about how they done been to jail and did time and this and that, and they never been to jail.
Nigga, Drake did time. He did time.
What kind of time he did?
Time with the Wrecking Crew.
That's right.
Eazy was getting on Dre's Chronic record like 50 cents a copy and maybe 25 cents. Dre Day, he talking shit about me. But every time Dre Day sell a record, I get 25 cents a copy.
Eazy-E and Dr. Dre went from being close friends and key members of one of the biggest groups of the 90s to straight up enemies in a war that shook hip-hop. Their fallout got so bad that at one point, Dre really thought bringing in one of the hardest street figures to intimidate and scare Eazy would actually work. But that idea blew up in his face spectacularly.
Because, you know, Eazy had real backup.
Oh, yeah. It's still, like, people still ride for Eazy. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Cut your head off. Leave it on the porch type backup.
Eazy's street credibility was on another level entirely. From Crip connections to ties with the Mexican mafia and even rumored links to Israeli Special Forces operatives, Dre and whatever muscle he thought he had didn't stand a chance against Eazy's network. Let's dive deep into this story. Two different worlds colliding. Before Eazy-E ever became a household name in hip-hop, he was deeply rooted in the gritty reality of Compton in the mid-1980s. Eazy was living close enough to the street life for the lines to blur completely. Around that time, he was running with a crew known as the Kelly Park Compton Crips, which was serious business. Now, to this day, people still argue and debate about how official his status really was in the gang. Some say he was a full-on member with stripes. Others say he was more on the fringes, moving with them but not officially put on or jumped in. But regardless of where you land on that debate, one thing is crystal clear. Even Eazy's short time around that world came with serious consequences and real danger. We're talking street fights, drug dealings, shootouts, and all the chaos that came with that lifestyle. Over the years, rumors have gone even darker with whispers tying him to alleged violent acts, including multiple bodies. None of that was ever proven in court, but the stories alone speak to how dangerous the environment around him really was. Now contrast that with Dr. Dre at the same point in time, and the difference couldn't be more striking and night and day. While Eazy was navigating the dangerous streets of Compton, Dre was spinning records at the Eve After Dark Club, rocking sequined lace gloves and performing with a world-class wrecking crew. It was electro-funk, bright colors, and heavy image focus, a far cry from the hardcore street image Dre would later become famous for. The birth of N.W.A. brought these worlds together. Fast forward a bit, and somehow these two very different worlds collided in an unexpected way. Eazy-E and Dr. Dre crossed paths and eventually joined forces along with Ice Cube, MC Ren, DJ Yella, and Arabian Prince, forming one of the most iconic and influential groups in hip-hop history, N.W.A. What followed was nothing short of revolutionary and groundbreaking. They didn't just make music for entertainment. They shook the entire industry to its core with their raw, unfiltered messages.
You had little white kids out there that was, grew up in Pop's Country Club, and they wasn't having it. They wanted to hear N.W.A.
There was hundreds of thousands in each city. People sat back and seen an album that sold 1 million units that was never played on radio. And I had to question myself, how does this happen?
But as fast as they rose to superstardom, cracks started forming behind the scenes. The tension really began when Eazy-E brought Jerry Heller into the picture to help co-manage Ruthless Records and handle business operations. On paper, it looked like a smart move for the group. Heller had industry experience, connections with major labels, and knew how to navigate the business side of music. But in reality, his presence made things worse and created division. The artist didn't trust him, didn't like him, and felt he was playing favorites, especially when it came to Eazy.
You can ask any artist on Ruthless Records if they're happy. I bet you they say no.
The first major fallout was Ice Cube leaving the group. After disputes over money and unfair contracts, Cube walked away. And while people later understood how bad his deal really was and how he was getting screwed, at the time, the money he left behind looked huge, especially to Dr. Dre. Dre stayed put, thinking things would eventually work themselves out. Then, Straight Outta Compton exploded onto the scene. The album sold over 3 million copies in just a few months and became a cultural phenomenon. Dre expected his life to change overnight with that success, but nothing really did materially. The money didn't seem to match the massive success they were having, and that's when Dre started asking serious questions. Where was all the money going? Not long after realizing something was wrong, Dre decided he wanted out too. Enter Suge Knight, lurking in the background and waiting for the perfect moment. Waiting for the perfect moment to make his move was Suge Knight, along with the D.O.C., one of N.W.A.'s most important but often overlooked contributors to their sound. The D.O.C. was responsible for a lot of the group's writing and had just launched a promising solo career that was taking off. Everything was going great until tragedy hit hard. Just 5 months after dropping his debut album, No One Can Do It Better, the D.O.C. was involved in a devastating car accident. He barely survived the crash, but the damage to his vocal cords was permanent and life-changing. His voice was gone, and with it, his entire future as a rapper ended. After the accident, his relationship with Ruthless Records changed dramatically. Contracts became an issue, and the D.O.C. realized he was stuck in a terrible deal with no clear way out. That's when Suge Knight, who was working as his bodyguard at the time, stepped in to help. Suge started digging into the paperwork and contracts, and he quickly realized the D.O.C. was being seriously screwed financially.
Doc, the D.O.C. was a friend of mine.
Right.
And the guy had, he had a tragic, it was an accident. So I said, well, look, one thing you can count on that you write songs.
Right.
You done wrote X amount of songs for Eazy-E, you done wrote X amount of songs for N.W.A. That's worth a lot of money to you.
Word of this situation reached Dre. And when he heard that Suge was helping the D.O.C. fight for his rights and his money, he saw an opportunity for himself. Dre asked Suge to look into his own situation with Ruthless. That's when things got interesting and started escalating. According to Suge, Dre never even had a proper contract with the label. Instead of rushing into anything recklessly, they played it smart and strategic. But before making a move, Dre went directly to Eazy-E for a face-to-face conversation to try to handle it respectfully. Dre wanted answers and explanations. After all, they built N.W.A. together from nothing, so it only felt right to handle it man to man. But Eazy wasn't trying to hear it or entertain the conversation. The conversation went south fast and turned hostile. Eventually, Dre gave Eazy an ultimatum, him or Jerry Heller. Eazy chose Heller, and that told Dre everything he needed to know about where he stood.
Did these checks like, whoa, you know, nobody has seen that much money at once.
Yeah, it was a lot of money. I needed that money. I wanted that money.
They were like, but you know, you guys are not officially a group yet because we had never signed anything up to that point. You know, they say, but you're not a group. In order to get these checks, you guys have to become a group and sign these contracts.
Dre demanded to leave Ruthless Records immediately and end their business relationship. But Eazy wasn't willing to let him go that easily. He insisted Dre still had contractual obligations to fill. And just like that, things turned into an all-out war between former friends. Now, one of the most famous rumors to come out of this period is how Suge Knight supposedly got Dre out of his contract. The popular version, the one shown in Straight Outta Compton movie, is that Suge physically intimidated or assaulted Eazy-E with violence. But according to Jerry Heller, that's not what happened at all. Heller claimed that Suge threatened Eazy's mother and told him that Jerry himself was being held hostage somewhere.
He threatened his life and telling him that they would kill his mother and that they were holding me hostage under those kinds of duress. Got him to sign releases for Dr. Dre.
That version makes more sense to a lot of people because Eazy wasn't someone you could just put hands on easily. He had real protection, real street ties and connections. He was connected to Crips, had relationships with Mexican sets, and even ties to the Mexican mafia. The Mexicans respected Eazy so much that people said they were more loyal to him than anybody else in the game.
Because they love Eazy-E too. Number low riders, the brown side guys, and, you know, Rest in Heaven Toker with Eazy, because, you know, Eazy had real backup.
Oh yeah, it's still like people still ride for Eazy, like you know what I'm saying.
Cut your head off, leave it on the porch type backup.
Eazy-E's deep ties to Mexican gangs went beyond business. Eazy-E's ties to the Mexican community go way deeper than most people ever realized or knew about. Way before he started signing legendary Chicano rap groups or collaborating with Latino artists on tracks, he already had real connections with the homies from the streets. One of his earliest and closest friends was Damon Trujillo, better known as Crazy D, a Mexican-American who was right there with Eazy during the first wave of N.W.A. If you look at the cover of N.W.A. and the Posse, their very first album, you'll notice something that confused fans for years. The whole idea of N.W.A. was niggas with attitudes. So when people saw this Mexican dude in the lineup standing with the group, it threw them off. A lot of folks assumed it must have been a Photoshop trick or some random guy who snuck into the shot, but it was real. That was Crazy D standing front and center, part of the crew from day one. And Crazy D wasn't just there for decoration either. At the time, he was actually more involved than some of the people who would later become N.W.A. Staples. For example, MC Ren, who became a cornerstone of the group, was only in that first photo because he was hanging with the homies that day. Crazy D, on the other hand, was contributing to the actual music. He's even credited on their very first single ever, Panic Zone. That's proof right there that Eazy's bond with the Mexican community was solid from the very jump. Eazy would eventually sign the group Brownside to Ruthless Records. According to Toker from the group, a mutual acquaintance put Eazy onto their music. Once Eazy heard it, he was sold immediately. They linked up, met face to face, and from there the bond was instant and genuine. Under Eazy's guidance and support, Brownside went on to help pioneer Chicano rap, shaping the sound, the look, and the feel of the culture.
How you hook up with Eazy-E? Cause, I mean, you're on Ruthless Records now.
Yeah, we plugged up with the homie, 3 years ago. He heard our music through some other people. He found out we real from the streets, you know? So, he wanted to with us.
But don't get it twisted. Brownside wasn't some rap crew chasing clout or copying trends. These were real ones, with solid reputations and street respect that ran deep. People who were around back in the day said just being near them made the air feel tense, like you could feel the danger creeping in. Their energy was heavy, unshakable. You didn't step to Brownside unless you were ready for whatever came next.
Real motherfuckers. These guys ain't rappers. These guys are real gangsters. Because I worked with other gangster rappers. These guys are real.
And that's part of what drew Eazy to them so strongly. Eazy admired the way the Latino gangs operated with structure. The loyalty, the family structure, the ride or die mentality. With them, your homies were your blood family. No questions asked. If it came down to it, they'd go to war for you without hesitation or second thoughts. Now, one of the most legendary stories about Brownside's loyalty comes from the height of the Ruthless Records versus Death Row beef. Toker once explained how Brownside played a major role in protecting Eazy during that dangerous time. According to Toker, one day, Hennessy's crew just happened to show up at Ruthless Records right when tension with Death Row was peaking. He described it as fate, like they were meant to be there at that exact moment. Shuge's camp had assumed Eazy was isolated, vulnerable, and easy to pressure. But when they saw Brownside in the mix, the whole idea got shut down quick. Everywhere Eazy went, business meetings, restaurants, industry events, he'd roll deep with Brownside and the Mexican homies. And they weren't just there for image or intimidation purposes. These dudes were serious and wanted action. They were hoping to run into Death Row's crew so they could prove their loyalty in action and defend Eazy.
Everywhere he went, he called his Mexicans. He called his brown brothers. Where you at? What's cracking? Swoop up over here, come in the Lolos. He be in Beverly Hills at an expensive restaurant. 20 Mexicans drive up. 20 Chicanos, Mexican, Latinos drive up. Hoping we ran into somebody from that row. Hoping. Because we wanted to make a statement. But luckily, never.
And eventually they got their chance to prove it. Toker told the story of one time when Eazy was chilling at the Cheesecake Factory, just trying to have a normal day and enjoy a meal. Suddenly, about 7 or 8 guys who claimed to be with Death Row pulled up and surrounded him. They tried to intimidate him, acting like they had him cornered and outnumbered. What they didn't realize was that Eazy was never truly alone anywhere he went.
And it was like 7, 8 they claimed Death Row, waiting for their cars to pull up because they were leaving the Cheesecake Factory. Right when my boy E walked past them, they all surrounded him. What's up? And they were saying the N-word on it.
In an instant, the scene flipped completely. Out of nowhere, Mexican gang members filled the restaurant from every direction. Toker described it as feeling like they were standing in the middle of a packed soccer field, but every face around was Latino, and every one of them was riding for Eazy to...
And all of a sudden, them 7, 8 just looked around like... We're surrounded. They thought they were at a Mexican soccer field surrounded by Mexican soccer players, but it was us. I said, what's up, man? You motherfuckers got beef with my brother Eazy? They were like, oh, damn. You motherfuckers got beef with my little brother Eazy? You got beef with me, motherfuckers. And then my little homie started coming out with the heat. They were like, no, man.
The Death Row affiliates realized quick that they were outnumbered and outgunned badly. Whatever intimidation tactic they thought they had just backfired on them completely. They scrambled to their cars and peeled out of there like their lives depended on it. And just to make sure the message stuck, Toker told them on the way out, if you want to come back, you're more than welcome. We'll be right here waiting. So yeah, if Suge had crossed that line physically, it would have ended very differently in reality. The only person who truly suffered at Suge's hands during that period was Jerry Heller. According to Mob James, who was part of Suge's circle back then, Jerry was literally frozen with fear, stuck in a seat like he saw a ghost. That wasn't the end of it either for Jerry's trauma.
So you're not even in the room?
No.
So, but Jerry's in the room with this big Suge Knight guy.
Just them two. Suge got a check out of him, and he got Dre's. We walked out of there, and he was sitting at his desk where Suge left him, walked out of there. I don't think Suge had to put his hands on him or nothing. He was that scared.
In fact, after the contract incident, Jerry's house got broken into. A few things were stolen, but the real kicker was that someone spray painted a threatening message on his bathroom mirror. There was no solid proof it was Suge directly, but Jerry had no doubt in his mind who was behind it.
I mean, your house was vandalized. Your life was threatened.
Right.
What were some of the incidents that, I mean, didn't you come home one time and found out that your house was broken into?
Yeah, and there was a lot of stuff missing, and on the wall was spray painted, on the mirror in one of the bedrooms was spray painted, paybacks or Jerry, or paybacks of Jerry. You know, one of those things. You know, I always felt that that Suge had something to do with it.
Eazy-E's deep ties to Israeli special forces changed everything. From that point on, Jerry was spooked and paranoid about everything. Just hearing Suge's name was enough to make him lose it completely. This is when Eazy decided it was time to stop playing defense and bring in some real muscle. That's when they hired a man named Mike Klein, a former Israeli special forces operative, to handle security. And this wasn't your average bodyguard situation at all. Klein was on a completely different level of dangerous.
Jerry's response was to hire an ex-Israeli special forces dude named Klein, who helped organize a defense against Suge.
According to Jerry's cousin Gary Ballin, the first time he saw Klein was in a photo where Klein was holding up 2 severed heads. That alone tells you the kind of energy this guy brought with him and what he was capable of. Klein didn't come alone either. He had a crew of equally intense guys working under him, and they quickly became Ruthless Records' new security team.
The first time I ever saw Mike Klein, and we're friends, we're good friends, me and Mike, but the first time I ever saw, there was a picture of him holding up 2 severed heads.
Eazy loved Klein and respected him. He respected that no-nonsense Rambo-type presence Klein carried everywhere. The guy was deadly in hand-to-hand combat and a straight-up marksman with a gun.
Let's say that I'm proficient in self-defense and that kind of stuff.
One of Eazy's other bodyguards, a guy known as Animal, admitted he didn't think much of Klein at first, but that opinion didn't last long at all. Animal said Klein never missed a bullseye at the shooting range and always had his creepy, calm smile on his face even when things got tense. That calmness is what made him even more intimidating to people. Word is Klein didn't just stand around either looking tough, he allegedly confronted Suge Knight directly with threats. One version of the story says Klein warned Suge that if he ever showed up uninvited again, he'd leave in a box. Another version says Klein threatened to chop him up and dump his body in dumpsters across the city. Either way, the message was loud and clear. Suge was not welcome anywhere near Eazy.
Klein told Suge he was going to cut him up in little pieces and put him in dumpsters all around the city.
All I can tell you is we reached an understanding that nobody was coming to the office without an appointment.
Once Klein and his crew came into the picture, Suge's grip started slipping. Dre versus Eazy heated up. As for Dre, once he was finally free from Ruthless, he, Suge Knight, and the DOC linked up to start their own label. Dre initially wanted to call it Future Shock Records, but the DOC suggested Death Row Records, and Suge loved it. They handled the paperwork and officially launched the label. But even after letting Dre go, Eazy didn't let go of the situation. He filed a lawsuit accusing Dre of forgery and extortion in October 1992. The Associated Press reported that Eazy-E sued Sony Music Entertainment under federal racketeering laws. He claimed Sony, Dre, and others conspired to use threats and forced to break Ruthless contracts. The lawsuit demanded $54 million in damages and was fueled by Dre's song Deep Cover, featuring a then-unknown Snoop Dogg, which was released without Ruthless approval. As all of this played out, Dre was working on The Chronic, but no label wanted to touch it because of the legal drama. Except Jimmy Iovine of Interscope Records.
Sony refused to distribute The Chronic.
Sony, because of their
fearfulness of some of the crazy things going on around death row and their wariness of the contractual status of Dr. Dre.
Because of Eazy-E persistence, he had been wrong and he had been robbed for his artists. Sony chose not to be a part of the lawsuit.
Jimmy believed in the album and saw its potential, but signing Dre meant dealing with Eazy and Heller. Negotiations followed. The lawsuit was dropped. Dre was released from Ruthless, but at a cost. 20% of Dre's earnings for the next 6 years. Dre and Jimmy agreed, and the deal was finalized on December 15, 1992. The Chronic dropped, and the shots fired immediately. The intro alone set the tone. Tracks like Dre Day mocked Eazy as Sleazy-E, and Ruthless was renamed Useless Records. In the video, the song became a massive hit, peaking at number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100. Eazy didn't stay quiet at all. He teamed up with Dresta and BG Knockout to create Real Motherfucking G's, calling Dre a fake studio gangster and exposing old photos of him in sequence. The response hit hard and went viral. Eazy doubled down with his EP, It's On, Dr. Dre, 187 UM Killer, released October 19, 1993. The project went double platinum within a year. At that point, the beef became crew versus crew, but people close to Eazy said he was having fun with it. His real focus was the future of Ruthless Records, especially Bone Thugs and Harmony, who he believed would be the next big thing. But then tragedy struck in 1995. The world was shocked to learn Eazy-E had passed away from complications related to AIDS. Dre later claimed they reconciled before his death, saying he visited Eazy in the hospital and that they discussed bringing N.W.A. back together.
I was so fortunate to be able to get on the phone with him and talk about maybe putting the N.W.A. back together, and we chopped it up about old times and what have you. So the last time I actually saw him, he didn't know I was in the room. He was on life support, you know? So I just reached down and whispered a few words in his ear.
But a lot of people who were actually there say it didn't happen like that at all. And when you look at what Dre was saying publicly around that time, things get even more questionable. On Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style, there's a skit where Daz Dillinger says Eazy with an HIV, and Dre jumps in with a slick punchline. Yo, 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 Daz, easy come, easy go. It was a clear shot, and this was before anyone knew Eazy had HIV. Fast forward 2 years later, Eazy dies, and suddenly Dre's storyline gets wrapped up neatly in the movie, making him look like the mature, forgiving hero. Meanwhile, in real life, Eazy was still going at Dre all the way into 1995. He was recording a diss track called DPG Killer right before he was hospitalized. He reportedly couldn't finish his verse because of a bad cough. Fast forward to today, and Dre continues to be criticized for how Eazy was portrayed in Straight Outta Compton, as broke, weak, and manipulated. Many people have since come forward to dispute that image, but no matter how the story gets retold, rewritten, or debated, one thing remains unchanged. Eazy-E's legacy stands solid and unshakable. If you made it to the end of this deep dive into the Eazy-E and Dr. Dre beef, make sure you smash that like button. Drop a comment below telling us what you think about how this whole situation went down and whether you think Dre's version of events is accurate. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss another video breaking down hip-hop's most legendary beefs. Share this with anyone who needs to know the real story behind N.W.A.'s breakup.